The U.S. Navy carrier dominance is officially dead. No headline covered it, no mainstream media reported it, but the entire global naval combat rulebook has just been rewritten in real time. As a military operator with years of real-world carrier strike group simulation experience and offshore operational analysis background, I can tell you this with absolute professional certainty. The DF-21D is not just another anti-ship missile the internet talks about. It is the only weapon system in human history that has completely broken the unbeatable myth of U.S. aircraft carrier hegemony from the fundamental tactical and strategic logic. Most overseas commentators and military creators only understand its long range and fast speed, but they have no idea what fatal structural flaws it targets. Nor do they understand why the entire U.S. failure-layered carrier defense system has completely failed overnight. What happened recently is not a simple maritime drill. It is a historic turning point that ends a century of carrier warfare dominance. Today, I will break down this game, changing weapon, and the full strategic competition behind it with zero bias. No hype and pure professional operational perspective. I am not a theoretical content creator talking from books. I have participated in offshore early warning cruise missions, completed realistic denial defense tactical simulations, and reviewed every iteration of U.S. naval combat systems over the past 3 decades. So I can say with full confidence that the subtle maritime posture shift we are witnessing right now is far more significant than any regional military conflict in recent years. The 30-year unbreakable maritime hegemony built by U.S. carrier battle groups has been completely shattered. Almost everyone has heard of the DF-21D and its famous title, the Carrier Killer, but almost no one truly understands its core terrifying advantages. The public generally believes it is merely a long-range and high-speed anti-ship ballistic missile. This is a superficial and wrong judgment. The real strategic value of the DF-21D lies in its ability to completely overthrow the century-old naval warfare rules established by the United States. In this video, I will systematically and objectively disassemble the entire combat system behind this historic weapon. I will first trace back the origin of U.S. carrier hegemony in the past 30 years, explaining why no country could counter U.S. carrier battle groups in the past era. I will analyze the fatal flaws of traditional anti-ship weapons and reveal why countless anti-ship missiles failed to pose substantial threats to carrier defense systems. I will deeply interpret the core hardware, ballistic principles, terminal penetration, and precise locking mechanisms of the DF-21D, sorting out the world-class technological barriers it has broken through. I will fully dissect the complete defense system, interception limits, and inherent structural loopholes of U.S. carrier battle groups, exposing the fatal weaknesses hidden behind the invincible appearance. I will restore the actual combat logic of the full area denial tactic, letting you understand that this is not the victory of a single weapon, but the dimensionality reduction strike of a complete modern combat system. Finally, I will give the most neutral and professional tactical and strategic assessment, clarifying what the DF-21D can achieve and what it cannot change, and deduce the future evolution of Sino-US maritime game. Let's start from the root and understand this 30-year maritime offense and defense arms race. Since the phase, the United States has completely redefined the global naval warfare pattern. The Gulf War made all countries in the world witness that the outcome of modern warfare no longer depends on the scale of ground troops, tanks, and artillery. Air supremacy, sea supremacy, and long-range precision strike capability directly determine the result of modern wars. On the ocean battlefield, U.S. aircraft carrier battle groups have always been the absolute core ruling force. Over the past 30 years, U.S. aircraft carriers have formed a seemingly unsolvable hegemonic logic. A complete Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carrier battle group has nearly unlimited ocean endurance, carrying dozens of various carrier-based aircraft and capable of launching airstrikes thousands of kilometers away. Cooperating with Aegis destroyers, cruisers, nuclear submarines, early warning aircraft, and electronic warfare aircraft, the carrier group has built a layered, three-dimensional and all-round offensive and defensive network. The coverage range, strike distance, and defense thickness of this system could not be positively confronted by any naval force in the world during the past 3 decades. All countries have summed up a cruel and realistic core conclusion from the U.S. carrier combat mode. Once a U.S. carrier battle group arrives in the open ocean, it gains absolute battlefield control. You cannot destroy the carrier from a long distance. You cannot break through its air defense and anti-missile network, and you cannot intercept its carrier-based aircraft strikes. As long as the carrier exists, the U.S. military has the absolute initiative to intervene, pressure, and launch strikes at any time. Under this pattern, the development of global navies has fallen into a long-term passive dilemma. Small and medium-sized countries have no countermeasure capability at all, and traditional naval equipment of major powers can hardly break through the carrier defense perimeter. This is why U.S. aircraft carriers dared to conduct deterrence cruises arbitrarily in various sea areas for decades, because within the framework of past weapon systems, the aircraft carrier was an unsolvable maritime overlord. Many people wonder why a large number of anti-ship missiles equipped by various countries over the decades could never threaten aircraft carriers. This involves core professional knowledge unknown to most audiences, and it is also the fatal ceiling of traditional anti-ship weapons. The first fatal flaw is the range limitation. The effective range of traditional ship, borne, and shore-based anti-ship missiles is mostly within kilometers, and a few improved models can reach kilometers. However, the combat radius of U.S. carrier-based aircraft can easily exceed kilometers. This means that before traditional anti-ship weapons enter the strike range, carrier-based aircraft will take the lead in launching long-range strikes and completely destroy your launch platforms and combat positions. This is the deadliest generation gap in combat distance. You cannot reach the enemy, but the enemy can strike you easily. The second fatal defect lies in the flight mode. Most traditional anti-ship missiles adopt cruise missile mode, flying at low altitude and subsonic speed with flat and stable trajectories, which are extremely easy to be captured by radar. The U.S. Aegis system, standard series air defense missiles, close and weapon systems, and electronic jamming systems have an extremely high interception success rate for such low speed and flat trajectory targets. Once locked by radar, traditional anti-ship missiles can hardly break through the layered interception network. The third problem is target locking and tracking difficulty. An aircraft carrier is a high-speed maneuvering maritime moving target, not a fixed land target. Traditional anti-ship missiles have short terminal search distance and weak anti-interference ability. Once the carrier conducts maneuver avoidance, electronic suppression, and releases jamming bombs, the missiles will easily lose their targets. The superposition of all the above shortcomings has formed the fixed maritime pattern for 30 years. Conventional anti-ship weapons can only deal with small and medium-sized warships and cannot pose effective threats to carrier battle groups. This is the core confidence for U.S. carrier hegemony to last for decades. In this context, to completely break the carrier monopoly, it is necessary to develop a brand new weapon that completely jumps out of the traditional anti-ship logic. The DF-21D is a strategic weapon specially designed to bridge this 30-year capability gap and restrain the carrier system. Next, I will disassemble all its core capabilities in the most popular and professional way. First is the disruptive range advantage. The effective strike range of the DF-21D stably covers sea areas more than 5 kilometers away. This distance directly breaks the effective combat radius of U.S. carrier-based aircraft and completely reverses the asymmetric pattern of offensive and defensive distance. In the past, the carrier could strike first, but now the carrier is trapped in a locked and destroyed danger zone before entering the combat range. This directly deprives the carrier of the initiative of ocean intervention at the strategic level. Second is the completely subversive ballistic mode. Traditional anti-ship missiles fly close to the sea and are easy to intercept. The DF-21D adopts ballistic missile flight logic, flying at high altitude and high speed in the whole process, maneuvering outside the atmosphere in the middle section, and diving vertically to strike targets at the terminal stage. Few people know that the air defense system of carrier battle groups has an inherent fatal blind spot. The radar detection and interception angle of Aegis systems are mainly designed for medium and low altitude horizontal incoming targets. For vertical high-speed diving targets from high altitude, the interception window is extremely short, and the interception difficulty increases exponentially. The terminal diving speed of the DF-21D can exceed Mach, flying more than 3 kilometers per second. The whole process from high altitude locking to target hitting only takes a few seconds. In such a short time, the early warning system, interception system, and close-in defense system of the carrier group cannot complete a complete response process. This is a physical dimensionality reduction strike that cannot be made up by software upgrades or equipment improvements. More crucial than speed is its unique terminal maneuvering orbit-changing capability. The trajectory of ordinary ballistic missiles is a fixed parabola, allowing enemy radar to calculate the trajectory in advance, predict interception points, and launch interception missiles ahead of time. However, the DF-21D has full process maneuver adjustment capability, which can correct the trajectory in the middle section and independently change orbit to avoid interception at the terminal stage. This means that even if the enemy radar detects the incoming missile, it cannot predict the final landing point or calculate an effective interception trajectory. The interception system completely loses prediction ability, and the interception success rate approaches zero. The core advantage rarely explained online is its precise locking capability for moving maritime targets. It is easy for ballistic missiles to hit fixed land targets, which only needs simple parameter input to achieve precise strikes. But using ballistic missiles to strike high-speed maneuvering aircraft carriers on the sea is a world-class technical problem. An aircraft carrier can move hundreds of meters per minute, and it can maneuver several kilometers during the more than 10 minutes of missile flight. Without real-time tracking, real-time correction, and autonomous identification capabilities, the target will have completely deviated from the original position when the missile lands. The DF-AD is equipped with multiple locking systems, including high-precision satellite network guidance, inertial navigation, terminal radar autonomous identification, and photoelectric composite guidance. It can continuously receive the real-time position of maritime targets during flight and constantly correct the flight trajectory. After arriving over the target sea area, it can independently scan the sea surface, identify ship outlines, distinguish military and civilian vessels, and accurately lock the core hull of aircraft carriers. This level of locking precision is a top-level technology customized for maritime strategic games. In addition to strike precision and penetration capability, its damage mechanism is also completely designed for carrier weaknesses. Equipped with a large, high-explosive warhead and combined with ultra-high diving kinetic energy, the DF-21D can completely disable carrier combat effectiveness without sinking the carrier. The weakest parts of an aircraft carrier are the flight deck, catapults, arresting cables, and island command system. A single missile hitting the deck can directly destroy the carrier, based aircraft takeoff and landing platform, and damage catapult and arresting equipment. No matter whether the carrier hull sinks or not, it will completely lose combat functions and become a useless maritime wreck. This is strategic paralysis strike, aiming to disable rather than sink, and completely deprive the enemy of maritime intervention capability. After explaining the weapon itself, we further analyze the real defense shortcomings of U.S. carrier battle groups and understand why this hegemonic system fails completely. A standard U.S. carrier battle group has multiple layers of defense circles with a maximum early warning distance of hundreds of kilometers. Many people mistakenly believe that aircraft carriers are impregnable, but all the advantages of this defense system are based on confronting low speed, low altitude, and conventional trajectory targets. Facing the high altitude, high speed variable, trajectory, and ultra long range DF-21D, the logic of the entire defense system collapses directly. First, the early warning time is seriously insufficient. The DF-21D has a short full flight time and extremely high speed. Even if the U.S. long-range early warning radar captures the signal for the first time, the reaction time left for the fleet is extremely limited. Second, interception missiles have inherent performance ceilings. U.S. Standard Series air defense interception missiles have an extremely low success rate in intercepting high-speed maneuvering ballistic targets and cannot effectively deal with terminal maneuver penetration. Finally, electronic warfare suppression fails completely. Traditional anti-ship missiles rely on external guidance links and are easily disturbed and suppressed by electronic signals. The DF-21D adopts multi-layer composite guidance with strong autonomous identification capability, and ordinary electronic jamming means cannot effectively suppress it. This means that the three-layer defense system relied on by the U.S. military for 30 years is basically ineffective in the face of new ballistic anti-ship weapons. Next, I will restore the actual combat execution logic of the full area denial tactic so that you can understand that this is not the victory of a single weapon, but the suppression of a complete system. Real maritime confrontation is never a duel between single missiles, but a full game competition of reconnaissance, locking, decision, making, strike, and assessment. The first step is full, domain reconnaissance networking. The ocean is vast. To strike an aircraft carrier, the first step is to master its real-time precise position, heading, speed, and formation configuration. Through marine monitoring satellites, high-altitude UAVs, shore-based early warning aircraft, underwater sonar arrays, and maritime monitoring platforms, the complete system can realize all-weather and uninterrupted monitoring of wide sea areas. No matter how the carrier maneuvers at sea, it cannot hide its position and is locked in real time all the time. The second step is tactical decision, making and firepower grouping. Modern anti-carrier operations do not rely on single missile sneak attacks, but saturated strikes from multiple positions, multiple batches, and multiple directions. Multiple missiles penetrate from different airspaces and angles, simultaneously, completely saturate and overload the enemy interception system. Even if a small number of missiles are intercepted, the remaining missiles can still hit the target stably to ensure strike effectiveness. The final step is real time post-war damage assessment, deciding whether to carry out supplementary strikes according to target damage conditions. The whole process is smooth and systematic without any loopholes. This is why the DF-21D is defined as a strategic weapon. It does not change the victory of a single battle, but reshapes the strategic balance of the entire sea area. At this point, I must give the most objective, neutral, and professional dialectical evaluation, showing the advantages and limitations of this system without exaggeration. First, I will explain the strategic pattern it has completely subverted and what it can achieve. First, it completely ends the U.S. carrier's free intervention hegemony in offshore waters. Within the effective coverage range of Faye kilometers, aircraft carriers can no longer approach arbitrarily for deterrence, pressure, and combat operations. Once entering the strike range, it will face the fatal risk of being locked, paralyzed, and destroyed at any time. Second, it completely rewrites the offensive and defensive rules of naval warfare. In the past, aircraft carriers dominated long-range strikes while opponents could only defend passively. Now, aircraft carriers face passive pressure, and opponents take the initiative to implement area denial operations. The identities of offense and defense have been completely swapped, and the strategic initiative has been fully transferred. Third, it has established a solid regional strategic barrier. It has formed an impenetrable denial zone in key sea areas, vital waterways, and core strategic directions, thoroughly safeguarding offshore strategic security. This is the irreplaceable strategic value that no conventional weapon has been able to achieve in the past few decades. Next, I will objectively elaborate on its limitations to prevent everyone from falling into the misunderstanding of blind overconfidence. First, the DF-21D is a regional area denial weapon, not a global strategic domination weapon. Its operational range is fixed. It cannot suppress aircraft carriers in global open ocean waters and cannot replace the strategic value of a large-scale ocean-going navy. Second, it is a defensive strategic weapon, not an active offensive weapon. Its core function is to block enemy intervention, deter enemy military pressure, and safeguard regional security, rather than taking the initiative to launch cross-ocean naval battles. Third, a single weapon cannot end the entire maritime strategic game. The U.S. military still possesses the world's most powerful naval fleet, the most complete ocean-going combat system, and the richest naval combat experience. The global delivery capability, sustained combat capability, and multitask adaptability of aircraft carriers remain irreplaceable at present. What we subvert is the invincible myth of aircraft carriers in offshore waters, not the entire strategic value of aircraft carriers. This is the most professional and objective cognition, based entirely on facts without excessive praise or deliberate belittlement. We will further elevate the global strategic perspective to understand the far-reaching impact of this change on future warfare before the full service and maturity of the DF-21D. All countries in the world defaulted to one naval warfare rule: aircraft carriers dominate the ocean. Whoever possesses large-scale carrier battle groups holds maritime discourse power and ocean-going intervention capability. However, the practical deployment and systematic maturity of the DF-21D have completely overturned this century-old naval warfare logic. It has proven to the entire world that medium and small countries can also check and balance the carrier battle groups of superpowers with systematic anti-ship ballistic missile weapons. Expensive large-scale aircraft carriers are no longer unsolvable strategic artifacts, but conventional equipment that can be precisely restrained, paralyzed, and destroyed. This has directly triggered a subversive revolution in global naval construction ideas. Countries around the world have begun to re-evaluate the cost performance, survivability, and strategic practicality of aircraft carriers. The traditional naval development model of simply expanding tonnage, increasing aircraft carriers, and stacking warships is no longer the only mainstream direction. Low-cost, high-penetration, systematic, and asymmetric anti-ship combat systems have become the core trend of future coastal defense construction. This is a crucial turning point that reshapes the development pattern of the world's navies for a century. Finally, we deduce the future evolution of the Sino-use maritime game. Many people question that if the carrier myth is over, why does the U.S. military continue to build new aircraft carriers and upgrade carrier-based aircraft? The answer is very simple. The regional deterrence of aircraft carriers has failed, but their global power projection capability still remains valid. In open ocean areas far away from the mainland, outside the coverage of ballistic weapons, aircraft carriers still maintain absolute combat advantages. The U.S. military will not abandon aircraft carriers, but will completely overhaul their deployment tactics. In the future, U.S. aircraft carriers will no longer rashly approach offshore waters for deterrence cruises. They will maintain long-distance maneuvering, remote deployment, and strategic pressure, completely avoiding the strike range of the DF-21D. This means that future maritime games will no longer be a one-sided pattern of unrestricted carrier suppression, but a two-way pattern of balanced defense and mutual restraint. The offshore defense barrier is firmly established, while competition and confrontation in the open ocean will continue to exist. This is the core strategic dividend brought by this powerful weapon system. Finally, I leave a thought-provoking ultimate question for in-depth discussion in the comments section. Now that the DF-21D has completely broken the offshore hegemony of aircraft carriers, will large-scale aircraft carriers gradually withdraw from the ranks of core main battle equipment in the future? What will be the real core of future naval warfare? Large surface ship platforms or asymmetric countermeasure systems? I will not preset any answers, and I look forward to your objective, rational, and logical viewpoints in the comment area. If you have gained professional and in-depth knowledge from this unbiased hype, free, and pure dry content video, please like and subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. I will continue to bring you exclusive and in-depth military and strategic insights from a frontline operational perspective.